and welcome back to Music Free Static. I hope you're having a fabulous day. And after months and years, really, of stating that I would never do it, I recently decided to multi-stream on Kick. Now, it's not without some hesitancy, so let's talk about it. Now, I talked about a lot of this in my newsletter over at musicfreegaming.com, but I want to dive into this a little bit more. So for those of you who don't know, Kick launched in December of 2022. It's a streaming site. It was almost a direct rip-off of Twitch. I mean, literally, it looked like they just copied the website for Twitch. But it's a streaming site that's owned by stake.com, which is a crypto gambling site, okay? It's an online casino, Stake is. And that, amongst some other things, have led to some controversy around Kick, all right? And I need to dive into this because it explains some of my hesitancy and some of the, some of the thoughts and discourses around the site, okay? Now, first off, hey, gambling, okay? Stake is an online casino, and a lot of the first streamers that were on Kick are there because they were banned from Twitch for gambling on stream, okay? It violated Twitch's terms of service, and Stake spun up Kick and said, hey, come stream here. All right. And they did. Right. Now, you could go back and forth and argue about gambling. That's not exactly what I'm here. But it is something to keep in mind because the idea that streamers are going to Kick because they got banned from Twitch was, in some ways still is, really the thing for Kick. That's how they got started, okay? And Kick made it really attractive, right? They offer this 95-5 payout split, right? So on Twitch, it's 50-50. The streamer gets half, Twitch gets half, unless you get up to higher levels of partner, and then it might be 70-30. YouTube, as I recall, is 70-30. But Kick is claiming 95-5, where the streamer gets 95% of all sub revenue, and Kick gets 5%. Well, there's a financial reality here that you can't run a streaming website off of that, and so how is this being paid for? And the claim is that Stake is subsidizing this specifically to drive people to gambling streams. Okay. So that's part of the controversy. Now, they do have a toggle now for users in the interface that allows you to hide hot tub streams and gambling streams and stuff like that. Okay. And we'll get into more of those types of things here in a minute, but the gambling is definitely one of those concerns around Kick. But I think all of that pales to, we'll call it moderation, all right? When Kick launched, they had almost no moderation tools at all. Yeah, you could ban people, but that was about it, right? It was sort of the Wild West. And the founders of Kick really seemed to not just tolerate, but also sort of encourage sort of hate speech and bigotry and all that stuff. Because a lot of those early founders, a lot of people who were really diving into Kick to get it off the ground, were these streamers that were kicked off of Twitch for all of that hate speech and bigotry. Now, I'll get into that a little bit, but Kick really became sort of the place to go if you were banned from Twitch, right? See Aiden Ross, for example, right? He was banned for hate speech and slurs in his stream, and he found a home on Kick. Now, he's since been unbanned on Twitch, which I think is going to play into this a little bit. But Kick also seems to celebrate and glorify the controversy, okay? And whether it's just the content or the creators. And so you see people like Aiden Ross or Trainwrecks or Asmongold who are now, I mean, these are big streamers. XQC, I think, also, who are rocking things now on Kick And they're doing it in part because they were having potential issues over on Twitch. Okay. And I'm going to tell you, both of those things, they're still present to some extent. Okay. And that's all that kept me off of Kick for a long time. But there's some things that have changed about the platform and about my attitudes about it a little bit. Not that I'm condoning any of like the hate speech or bigotry. I'm not. It's just my approach to it my approach to Kick has changed a little bit. Let's be sure the pronoun is. Let's get rid of the pronoun and talk about specific. My view towards Kick has changed a little bit. So let me talk about why I've even thinking about it, and then we'll get into more of the details about what's happening on Kick. Okay, so I've been multi-streaming for a while. So and I've been bouncing around a little bit. I started on YouTube, and then was multi-streaming to YouTube and Twitch and Beam, which eventually became Mixer. I was having issues with YouTube, Twitch was doing nothing for me. I was getting all this growth on Mixer. So I decided to go full-time on Mixer. And it was great. I loved it. But Mixer plateaued and everything else went up. And I was on the wrong side of that one, I'll tell you. So I went back and I was streaming on Twitch. And it was fine. It worked fine. But Twitch was having some issues a couple of years ago that, if you'll forgive the pun, had me a little twitchy. I was just not. I was worried about Twitch. I was not happy with what the site was doing, and I was trying to build my YouTube channel anyway, starting to make long form videos and stuff over there. So I decided to start multi-streaming. Actually, I didn't even do that. I went straight over to YouTube and abandoned Twitch. But Twitch still is the place to go for live streams. So I started multi-streaming, and I decided a while back that, hey, if I have the opportunity, I'd love to put my content out on a site that could provide some competition to YouTube or Twitch or both. Okay. And so I added Rumble. Now, Rumble started as sort of a conservative right-wing answer to YouTube. Okay. And now there's some of you who are going to freak out because of that. All right. Chill. All right. Because there's nothing wrong with being conservative or right wing. There are extremists over there, definitely. There are extremists on the left who have found homes on YouTube and Twitch and stuff too, okay? And that's part of what has me reevaluating some things, okay? But I wanted to try out Rumble. And I know a person who's found some great success over on Rumble. So I thought, all right, let me give it a shot. So I've been streaming on Rumble for a while, and there's a reality over there that unless you're really a political talk show, you're just not getting anywhere in live space. Okay. And there are no Minecraft streams at all going on there. And there are times when I think might have been the only Minecraft stream or one of a handful. I mean, literally like 5. And I had no viewers. Okay. No viewers, no chatters, nothing. It's like, why bother? I mean, it's like there's just there's no audience there. Now, it's one thing. Okay, I know a smaller platform is going to have a smaller potential audience. That's fair. But it's got to have more than just the one random person walking down the street to open up a store, right? Now, and that's been on my mind for a while. And so I started thinking about alternatives, okay? And the reality is that Kick is the only other platform worth mentioning for streaming. Sure, there are some other ones out there. There's DLive, right? If you're one of those people who's managed to get big enough, you could potentially stream to TikTok. Even Instagram's own CEO says, yeah, you could stream to Instagram, but it doesn't do anything for you. It says, okay. It's like, what a weird thing for their officers to be saying, but all right, I'll believe you. so this is what's been going through my mind, because I would really love to branch out and help foster competition. One, yes, I do want to grow my channel and grow my audience and all of that, but I really want to see more competition. There was a time, and it was a couple of years ago, when I decided to move to YouTube. Twitch was foundering. I mean, they were just like, nobody knows what's going on. They were making some really odd choices. They were giving me serious Mixer vibes, not in a good way. It was very much we're going to throw any potential money-making scheme at the wall and hope something sticks, because if it doesn't, we're closing. Right? That was the feel I was getting from Twitch. And YouTube was over here saying, look, we are rolling out all of these new features for live. We are awesome. And it was looking really good. So, this is good. Competition is great. Well, YouTube has kind of put their streaming stuff on hold a little bit. I mean, yes, you can still live stream on YouTube, and it's still a decent platform for doing it, but it's got some issues. And the biggest issue on YouTube Live is chat, which is annoying, because that's one of the best parts of a live stream. Both for me as a streamer, I love people in chat and talking to people in the chat. But in chat, for the people watching to be able to interact with the streamer, that's awesome. YouTube's Live is a little weak. Okay. All right. So I'd love to see that competition. And it looked like for a while that was going to be there, and it's just not. So Kick has been spinning up, and it is starting. There's been a little bit of a murmur about Kick for a while. Now, some of it has been murmuring and grumbling, and because look at that dumpster fire over there. And for a while, it is and was and may still be. We'll get to that. Okay. But some of the concerns that people had about Kick when it first launched have been addressed. Okay, at least the technical concerns. For viewers, they do have those options to turn off gambling recommendations for gambling streams, or the hot tub streams, and there was one other one, right? But hey, these levels or these classifications of videos, maybe you don't want them to show up in your feed. Cool, we can stop that. I mean, and Twitch has something similar, for like hot tub streams. I don't want to see hot tub streams on my recommended. All right, cool. So, great. So that first concern of stakes just using Kick to drive people to gambling, if you turn that setting off, you're not seeing gambling at all. So is that still true? Right? Is it still true that Kick is driving people to stake for gambling? And yes, they probably do still have streamers. I'm almost guaranteed they still have gambling streamers, but I don't think it's true anymore that Kick is just a gateway to gambling. Okay? I'm not entirely sure it was even to begin with, but now I really don't think that's true. Okay? That's not to say that Stake would love to see more gambling streamers, but I think as a general rule, unless you're going there and explicitly now wanting to look for it, that's just not there. Okay. So the next, let's talk about moderation a little bit, because this was definitely an issue. And I've run into this on YouTube, because YouTube's moderation was a little loose on chat as well. This is one of those things that Twitch does very well. Okay, they have some great options within their site as a streamer that you can go in and say, hey, I need Twitch to block hate speech and sexual posts and all this stuff in my chat. And it does a pretty good job of that. Okay. And sometimes it's a little aggressive. Right. But I had Twitch block a post from one of my streamers because she said something I was building wasn't ugly. But because it had the word ugly in it, it was caught. All right. Fair. I told Automod to let that through. Okay, but I'm glad those types of things exist. I said YouTube's gotten better. They don't have they don't have as many knobs, but they definitely have the knobs for, hey, I want strict moderation in my chat versus moderate or minimal or none. Okay. So there is still a little bit of protection for the streamer to keep somebody from just jumping in and dropping all of the hate bombs. All right. Now, Kick has started adding those features. Officially, they're still labeled beta, but heck, all of Kick is still labeled beta. You go to Kick's website, it has a big beta sticker on it. Okay. Not unlike what Google did for years on all of their services. Okay. But they now have this, they claim AI-powered moderation tool for streamers. So you can go through and set on a slider how aggressive do you want the moderation to be, and it does it by category, similar to what Twitch does, of things like hate speech and bullying and drug use and weapons and all of this stuff. Okay, that addresses that aspect. Now, why is that such a big deal? That goes back to the owners, or at least the people running the site, because a lot of those first people were, remember, a lot of them were banned from Twitch because of hate speech or similar types of things. Now, whether they actually truly are racist bigots or just doing it because they're edgelords, I don't know. Okay. But whatever it is, it led to a lot of concern for streamers in marginalized communities that if I want to come here, I'm just going to get roasted. And that's not fun for anybody. It's not fun for the well, there's a certain class of people that is fun for. Those people are idiots. But for streamers, it's just not fun, right? But now that we've got a lot of these tools on Kick to be able to block a lot of that stuff, it's opening up more of Kick to be a safer space for marginalized people. Okay. Because, hey, I've got all of the guardrails on my chat so that I'm not going to get hate bombs that are going to come in. And then it's typical stream moderation. If something does slip through, the streamer or the mods can take care of it quickly and move on, right? And this is something I've had to do in my streams, you know, for as long as I've been streaming, because I'm a family-friendly streamer, right? I don't allow profanity, for example, in my chat. I don't allow contentious topics in my chat, okay? Because partly I stream to get away from all that garbage, all the politics and rage baiting, all that stuff. And I just don't need any of that in my chat. Well, Kick has more of the automated tools, and said the things that get missed are much fewer and further between. Now, there's still a little bit of a spam issue, but Twitch has that too. So, okay. So from a streamer's perspective, if I didn't know any of that, any of the background, right, any of that noise, Kick is actually looking like a pretty decent place now, at least technically, for content. But the reality is all this other stuff still exists, okay? So what do we do, right? And this is where some of my thinking has changed, okay? The site is still owned by Stake, okay? Kick.com is still owned by Stake, which is an online casino. I'm not totally thrilled with this. On the other hand, a lot of companies are owned by other companies or by other companies, right? You get potentially this whole chain of ownership. But those companies have other goals. They support the streaming or whatever site you're going to in other ways, right? But as I said before, you've got an option to, as a viewer, to turn off gambling streams so they're not recommended. And Kick isn't requiring me to gamble on stream. They're not paying me to gamble on stream. There's no incentive to even promote gambling or to promote stake or promote any of that. So is the fact that it's owned by a casino really that big of a deal? And honestly, I don't know that it is. I don't think so. Okay. Now, some of you may go down that chain of corruption or whatever, however you want to look at it. Pair a company to something evil, I won't touch anything they do or any company they own or anything else. Okay. Cool. If that's how you want to play it, that's how you play it. That's you live your life and live your best life. Okay. But as far as I'm concerned, the fact that Stake owns Kick is an annoyance, but it's nothing that's going to stop me from streaming on Kick. Okay. That is the least of my concerns. Okay. I mean, Twitch is owned by Amazon. Now, I happen to like Amazon for a lot of things, but I have not been thrilled with some of their content choices on Amazon Prime, but I don't subscribe to Amazon Prime. I don't watch Amazon Prime, but it's okay, whatever, right? YouTube is owned by Alphabet, which also owns Google. And is that a problem? Well, not really. I have some differences of opinion with the owners of Alphabet, the people who run Alphabet. But does that stop me from using YouTube? No. Okay, so as far as the corporate ownership, I think that's less of an issue. Now, said if it's an issue for you, cool. So you do you. All right. For me, it's not. Let's talk about the bigger issues here. Okay. And that's the people who are running Kick.com. Because those people are still there, and they do still have questionable morals, shall we say. And that's been one of my biggest hangups, because I worry a little bit about how they steer the site and the people they are trying to pull and encourage to stream on their sites. Okay. Now, they've been trying to position Kick as a quote unquote free speech platform, which is great. I'm all about free speech. Okay. And I'm definitely one of those people who believes in free speech. Okay. I do believe in moderating my channel. I believe in, no, you don't get to come into my space and spew profanities and stuff. But there are a lot of people who try to get people banned, right? The whole cancel culture type thing of, you said something nice about Trump, or you said something bad about Trump, or, something along those lines, and therefore you shouldn't be allowed on the platform, right? That's stupid. Okay. And the idea that we're going to ban somebody because of their honestly held views, where they're not necessarily treating somebody badly, their views are just different, right? Well, my solution is to those types of things is go talk about what you think is right, right? The solution for me for speech you don't like more often than not is more speech, not censorship. Okay. So being positioned from a free speech perspective is cool. It's fine. It's all right. But I think the people running Kick often like to hide behind the concept of free speech, because they are these types of people who've been thriving on controversy. and they want to be they want the controversy to help bring in people to come watch the I was gonna say watch the train wreck, but he's one of the problems, right? And he's one of the streamers, right? So that is definitely a concern. But okay, and there's a lot of buts here. Okay, it is there are buts everywhere. All right, in this conversation. But if you turn off the hot tub slider and kick, you won't see them as often. Okay, no. Sorry, okay. Here's where things get a little murky, right? So Kick has been pulling in all of these controversial streamers from like Aiden Ross. They recently got Asmongold to start streaming over there, and Asmongold has had some other issues as well, right? But Twitch recently unbanned Aiden. So does it make a difference if you're streaming on Kick or on Twitch if Aiden could stream on both platforms? Okay, right? You start thinking about that. Is if this person who was deemed at once too toxic for Twitch, and now he's back on Twitch, does it matter if, well, that person was also streaming on Kick, right? It's a question of, does Twitch still have any sort of moral high ground? Now, you can answer that for yourself, but I think what we're seeing across the streamer sphere is that maybe it doesn't anymore. Okay, and maybe at the platform doesn't matter. Now, I'm going to get into this a little bit more, but it's something to start to think about. So here's the thing. I don't have to agree with somebody, right? I don't have to agree with somebody to use the same platform that they do, right? I mean, this should be blindingly obvious, but it's 100% true, right? I'm a Christian libertarian. Okay, if you want to dive into my politics, and I'm not going to get into all the political stuff, but this is where I'm coming from. I consider myself to be quote unquote right wing. Okay, now there's a difference between that and the total wackadoodles that are out there, but this is where my politics tends to fly, and I definitely don't agree with people like Hasanabi, who's trying to position himself as this left-wing talk radio type host over on Twitch. Okay. Now, I've not watched his streams, right? Because one, I don't listen to talk radio in one way or another, right? So, podcast, I suppose, but that's not why I'm going to Twitch. I'm going to Twitch for Minecraft streamers, okay? I'm not going there for deep, political hot takes. And I'm definitely not doing it from a left-wing streamer. And the fact that this far left streamer is streaming on Twitch doesn't bother me because I'm not over there. I'm on Twitch. I'm not in his streams. I'm doing my own thing. Doesn't matter, right? Bernie Sanders and Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, right? AOC have streamed on Twitch. Awesome, good for them. Okay, I'm not there. I'm not in their streams because I don't want to be. But the fact that they're streaming on Twitch does not stop me from streaming on Twitch. Okay? Because I'm doing my own thing. My viewers, whether they like those people or not, if they're in my stream, they're there for me. They're there for my community. They're for what's going on in my channel at that time, which has nothing to do with anybody else who's on the platform, right? Whether it's somebody you agree with or not, and I'll tell you, as a libertarian, there's a lot of people I do not agree with, right? But it doesn't matter, right? I can stream on a platform that hosts videos from Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders and Barack Obama and, whatever, and it doesn't matter to me because they're not in my streams, right? My stream is me being a wholesome, family-friendly streamer, playing primarily Minecraft. That's it. Okay? So that then comes back to that question of, does it make a huge amount of difference who's on the platform? There are a lot of people on Twitch that I don't want to have anything to do with them. But that's not going to stop me from streaming on Twitch, right? And that's the sort of mindset that I've had as I've started looking at Kick and thinking about it more seriously, okay? And a lot of other people have started to make those same choices and are working through those same thoughts, I think. And we're starting to see some big names, starting to see some bigger names in streaming taking serious looks at Kick, okay? The streamer group OTK recently struck a deal with Kick to start streaming events over on the platform. Not everything. It's not like the whole group has picked up and moved to Kick. That's not what they're doing. What they're doing is they are producing specific events that will be streamed on Kick. Okay. But they've also said our members are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to stream on whatever platform they're happy to stream on, and we're not forcing them to move to Kick, right? And they definitely would lose people. For example, Mizkif, who is a member of OTK, I guess, and a Twitch streamer, I said he'll never stream on Kick because people running the site nearly drove him to suicide. Okay? Again, the people running Kick are not necessarily the best people in the world. All right? Again, this is a concern. And I will not fault anybody who sees that and says, you know what? I don't want to be on that platform at all. Okay? Fine. Awesome. Again, you make the best choices for you. But we're also seeing a lot of other people starting to move. Zach Bussey's had a number of them that he's posted their tweets or whatever Blue Sky calls their post or whatever over in his Discord. And it's been a variety of people, right? He mentioned Fernwitch, which is apparently a fairly wholesome VTuber, okay? And if someone who's got that sort of wholesome brand is now multi-streaming to Twitch or to Kick, and that multi-stream is important, we're going to get to that. This is, I think it's starting to signal a shift. And he posted several others, Mr. Paul, Ellie, a number of others. The FaZe group over on Twitch, FaZe Clan, I don't know what they call themselves, but FaZe is considering multi-streaming over there. And Twitch's biggest streamer currently, Kai Cenat, is also rumored to be thinking about multi-streaming to Kick. Okay. The operative word there is multi-streaming. And think about that for a minute, okay? Because Kick recently opened up to allow multi-streaming. Okay. They didn't allow it for a long time. And then Twitch said, you know what? Forget it. We're going to allow multi-streaming. Go forth and stream. And Kick decided, you know what? Okay, we can do that too. Because if there's one thing Kick is good at, it's copying Twitch. So a lot of people are now seriously looking at multi-streaming on Kick. They're looking at all of the same stuff I am. One, the moderation tools are there. Some of that, the safety concerns have been addressed. And I think, like any platform, you can start looking at, it's like, okay, if there are a couple of people who are just dumpster fires, that's fine. My community is not them. And I've heard some discussion of people who are talking about Kick is, yes, there are some big name dumpster fires over on Kick. 100%, they exist. But there's people that are saying, yeah, if you're not in the English language categories on Kick, everything is awesome, right? And even in the English category, yes, you've got some disasters, right, over like the just chatting groups, categories and things. But as we're starting to see more people move over, the predominance of just awesome streams will become greater than the dumpster fires, okay? And yes, they'll still exist, but it changes the flavor of the site. And so I think a lot of streamers are starting to do that calculus, and they're looking at Twitch is still sort of a disaster, okay? Twitch has been focusing on a bunch of things that don't maybe quite fit the live streaming space, okay? The stream together stuff that Dan Clancy, that's been his baby forever, and he's still been pushing it as CEO. It's a great idea in some ways, but completely contrary to the idea of, hey, I'm streaming and interacting with my chat. What Stream Together does is it encourages streamers to stream together, surprisingly enough. But together and talking to each other and collaborating with each other, which is great, but that tends to exclude chat. And I think Clancy, the way he's been approaching it is that, yeah, you Twitch, you're a streamer, you stream, you do your thing, you talk to it, and maybe once in a while you look at chat. Right? I really feel like that's his attitude towards streaming, and not the chat is part of the collaboration. Okay. Now, some of the things like the shared chat and other things that come with that are kind of awesome, but it's been weird the way they've been pushing and changing some of their advertising on Twitch. It's an issue. Okay. So I can see a lot of people like me looking at Twitch and think, you know what? This is still the place to be, but the experience is getting worse and worse and worse. So what do we do? And this is where the multi-streaming is coming in. Okay. Because when you multi-stream to a platform, you're not locked into it. Okay. For me, YouTube is my main channel. Okay. If I had to stop multi-streaming, the party would be over on YouTube. That's where I would be. That's my main place to be. Over at my channel, musicfreegaming.com, or Music Free Gaming. Okay. My website's musicfreegaming.com. If you want to support the show, you can do that. But you want early access to the podcast, become a supporter and you can do that. But how's that for awkward plugs? Anyway, being able to multi-stream allows you to sort of dip your toes into the pool. Okay. I'm reaching out into Twitch because Twitch is still the place to go for live streams. And it's been good for me. I've had a couple of other new regulars showing up in my stream. I am seeing a little bit more on the financial support. I've got a very small audience, so it's not a lot by any stretch of the imagination, but still, it's a little bit, and that's been good. Okay. And, Kick turns on monetization really fast. Okay. You stream for 5 hours, and then you can be monetized. Hey, I've hit that. Huzzah. Okay. You do that in a stream, maybe 2, and you're rocking and ready to go. All right. I think these streamers who are looking at Twitch, or looking to multi-stream to Twitch and to Kick, or from YouTube and Kick, but those who are looking at Kick, they're going in with their eyes open. Maybe I'll put it that way. They're not completely jumping ship, right? And this is like me. I'm not leaving YouTube. I'm not leaving Twitch. Just dipping my toes in, right? And I think it's because, one, they see all that crap I talked about earlier, and they don't trust Kick completely yet. They don't trust it to be a site that's safe for their communities, safe for their careers, right? But a lot of those technical concerns have been solved, or at least answered in a way that, yeah, people can get to it. Now, I have some other technical concerns about Kick, but they are technical problems, right? I can't use StreamerBot on Kick because Kick's API doesn't work for desktop bots. Okay. It's a technical issue. All right. Boy, that sucks. But okay, I can deal with it for now. But it's not stopping me from going over there. And I think a lot of people who already use a cloud bot anyway, something Stream Elements or even Streamlabs, right? Hey, good. They just turn it on and they're ready to go. But multi-streaming, it still makes it easy to pull out if you need to, right? Your main audience might still be on Twitch or still be on YouTube. And if Kick just blows up one day in a horribly bad way, right? The dumpster fire has just gotten hit by a train. Okay, you're not tied into it. You're not locked into it. It's not a permanent part of your lifestyle. You're not having to do a full audience shift. And I've done that and it sucks. Okay. I think because some of that shift has happened on Kick, more and more people, said myself included, are looking at Kick and saying, you know what? Let's try this. Not convinced, right? I'm not totally sold, but let's give it a shot. And I think that's what we're starting to see now with Kick is more and more streamers who are not in that disaster demographic, right? That Kick was initially courting. Hey, you got banned on Twitch? Bring your audience here and let's go, right? No, it's a lot of them are maybe not I'm not going to say they're upright, angels of streamers, right? But a lot of them are also, they're not the extremist rage bait, right? That you get in some, that it was in that first wave, right? And I think that's a sign, okay? I think it's a sign that Kick may start to be a viable platform. Now, will it remain such? I don't know, okay? I can't see the future. But things have changed enough that I've already made the choice to multi-stream there. As of today, as I'm recording this, I have streamed on Kick twice. Okay. Again, multi-streaming. Okay. My main channels are still YouTube and to a lesser extent Twitch. And the streams are fine. But it's just not the disaster I think that it was when it first launched. So we'll see, okay? I'm still going in with my eyes open too. I've already talked about it. There's some things I'm not thrilled with. But I'm not thrilled with it with the stuff Twitch is doing either, and I'm still streaming there. So we're going to see, okay? And I think that's what we're starting to see is more and more streamers outside of the disaster theater, perhaps the world of controversy and hot takes. I think they're starting to dip into Kick and see, you know what? Let's give this a try. And we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I fully expect as the time goes on, the streamer split will go down. It won't stay that 95-5 forever. I think it'll slide down at least to where YouTube's at with the 70-30. I don't know that they'll end up pushing all the way down to the 50-50 that Twitch is at, but I think we'll see that happen. And there may be some other things, but it's interesting. It's kind of exciting. And I'm really hoping there's a push. I was hoping that with Mixer as well, but we'll see. We'll see. Is it going to be perfect and amazing and sunshine and rainbows? Who knows? Probably not. but will it be at least where Twitch is? I think eventually it will be. And I think that there could be some good competition because of it. But we'll see. So let me know. I said I'm fully aware there's a lot of baggage with Kick right now. Okay, but I think my perspective is I think I can not step in most of their baggage. Okay? Does that make sense? I think a lot of streamers are making the same choice. So let me know. Share your thoughts here. Whether you're commenting on YouTube or Spotify or in my Discord. I'm happy to talk about it. And until next time, be excellent to each other. This is Music Free Static signing off.